Welcome to the Culture Stoke podcast, where happier people lead to better results. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good morning. We are back at the Culture Stoke studio. It is a wonderful day of the week, which we will not disclose because it's
Thursday.
It's Thursday. I am Richard. I'm the host. I'm joined once again, by the wonderfully look at the hair today.
I told him to get there.
The first time I saw him, I
jealous.
was like, dude, it's getting there. You
I'm
got past
jealous.
that.
Ooh, it's
That
still
annoying.
It's starting. I can feel it in my ears when I shift my head on
And
the
it's just-
pillow, and it's like wake up. I'm like, oh, is this worth it?
Is it worth
I'm not sure. I'm
It
just
is
gonna keep it
lustrous.
going.
I don't know,
Thank you.
man. I
The
like
locks.
it.
The
Well, this is
locks
Marty. That is Marty.
Hello.
He is
Happy
he otherwise known as the locks today.
Marty and his magnificant hair.
Look at it.
that
It's so
lettuce is
good.
looking so good. Digging it.
Dang, this is. I'm not gonna be able to
Love
walk out of
sesh.
here.
Because that hair.
Stuck in the door. And then, of course, my other side, Wes, with the beard. I was saying, you got the beard going, man.
So itchy.
I feel like I'm missing out.
It's terribly itchy.
You know, it's just you gotta take a bath every once in a while.
Very fastidious about my cleaning.
You do seem
My hygiene
to
is,
be,
you know,
high up there.
what?
Two showers a day, like morning and night. Is that your thing? I can't do it.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I love
Hey, look good, feel good, do good.
I mean, I'm just
Mm.
saying, like you wake up in the morning, you go
Yeah.
to the gym, can't just go through the day with gym funk on you. And then
it.
it's like
That's true.
you've gone through your whole day. And then you're just gonna like lay down in bed with the world on you. It's-
Okay.
Just saying.
So, new episode. We're going to be talking about hygiene
Talking
in the
hygiene.
workplace.
Workplace.
That is actually a very
We could.
important conversation. Maybe that
we should do an episode on workplace.
Let's see how the different generations
Just-
like treat hygiene.
Mm,
Oh boy. Okay.
boy.
Well, so
I've had hard conversations. That's just
yes.
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Tough. It
Okay.
is
See,
tough, but-
more.
Fragrance-free work zone.
Okay.
We'll hold off
All right.
on that.
That's again next
This episode
for-
brought to you by Dr. Squatch.
Yes.
Just
So Marty, we kind of just wrapped a little bit via text, and Marty had an idea based on a text. So you
Yeah.
want to kind of lay it on us, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a good friend in our network by the name of Hugo Balazar. Hugo, what's up, dude?
Get
Thank
it
you
up,
very
bud.
much for your text. And he was so kind earlier last week. Said, I'm not trying to be obtrusive, but I'm just genuinely curious. How do you and Wes get your partnership to work? How it seems that from this side from his perspective, that you tend to either read each other's minds or make this something that can be a rather daunting look or appear easy. How do y'all do it? And I started to think of ideas and started to write out a text and thought, this is a really layered and
Right.
deeper conversation than I can
Mhm.
even get into in the next 10 minutes and thumbing this out. How about we just address this on the next podcast? Would that be cool? He's like, yeah, that'd be great. So
Heck yeah.
that is what I feel would be a great place for us to dive in and chat.
So, moral of the story: if you message us, we will probably talk about that topic.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
DMS.
Yeah. No, well, I think the first thing we need to disclose is we're not actually a partnership. Marty and I are the same person. This is just all camera angles and tricks and stuff. Like,
Smoke and mirrors, baby. Smoke and mirrors.
Well, there is some strangeness in that response.
Yeah.
Not just because there is it's funny, but we are only 2 days apart in age.
Right.
it's wild.
So yeah, just
And I mean, the looks are uncanny. Just kidding.
well, 2 days apart in age, but
Yeah.
I would say we also grew up with each other. I
Yeah.
remember meeting Wes back in high school, probably freshman, sophomore
Freshman,
year, but I
sophomore
think
year,
sophomore for sure.
Yeah.
We were hanging out more. But I think one of the reasons why our partnership has been so solid and it's been so stable is because the level of trust that I have within you is deep. And I was explaining trust to my son Eli the other night about why not only is it important to be honest, but why trust is so critical, not only from an individual side, but also critical in maintaining and building relationships. Yes, trust is kind of the ultimate currency. The most kind of no relationship can be healthy without trust, but that's also you have to trust in yourself.
Mhm.
And so I think when there are individuals in your life that can either, just like in any organization, can either increase or decrease the amount of trust that you have in them, but also can increase or decrease the amount of trust that you have in yourself.
Yeah.
And I
totally.
am a person who has had trouble believing in myself at times. And so I tend to look at others not only as, can I count on this individual to do the things that they say they're going to do, have fun and enjoy being with them, but does this person make me a better person?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the reasons I feel like our relationship in terms of a business partnership and a friendship has been so successful, because there have been moments and times where not only can I count on you for being there when things are good, but I can count on you for being there when things are the most challenging and the most difficult.
Yeah.
And not only, and I can share more examples, but those are some of the things that really come top of mind. Is I have a deep sense of trust, care, joy being with you, have fun, feel like I'm a better person because I know you. But then there's also a willingness and ability to deliver and really show up in the shit. And I'm sorry to drop that out there, and sorry, especially Eli, if you watch this later on. We can always,
One day.
Anyways,
One day.
But with that being said, I genuinely feel without that level of trust, that our business partnership wouldn't be what it is today without.
Yeah.
No, the trust component cannot be understated. I don't think you can, because and it's interesting because you hear a lot of the advice, like, oh, you don't get into partnerships with friends. You don't get into things with friends because like it can turn ugly. It can. It really, really can. You do run the risk that it's like, but I think that one of the things that sets Marty and I apart is, we're not driven by money alone. And I think that's where those relationships can get very toxic, is because, it's all about profit. It's all about profit. And if we are centered solely on, well, we just have to make profit. And then it's like, that's where resentment can come and get built in, because it's like, well, if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, like now we're not making profit. So like Marty and I look at money as a tool for life, but I think the trust part of it has to be that bedrock. But I think the other thing is that we just want to see similar things happen in the world. And so the music comes out pretty sweetly on its own, just intrinsically. And then just having a great time while doing it. Like Marty and I will take ourselves very seriously in the work that we do, but we don't take ourselves seriously in that it's like, just from like a human aspect, like we're okay with laughing at ourselves and making mistakes and things. And we hold ourselves to a high standard of learning, not to a high standard of being perfect. Yeah. And if you build that dynamic where it is heavily weighted on the relational trust with a deep respect and reverence for the cognitive trust, I think that's where you strike that healthy balance of, it doesn't matter what comes. Like, I just know for a fact, like whatever comes our way, Marty and I are going to figure it out. Right. And that's just a very cool spot to be in, I think. Yeah. But it does beg I think if you're looking to do this, like what advice would you give people that are looking to start a business with maybe a friend? I don't know. Like what would you say?
I mean, I just as a kind of like a precursor to that question, because I've had a kind of unique opportunity to see it from the outside looking in, and then now the inside looking inside.
Looking inner?
I'm looking inner.
More in.
I'm looking. I've gone into the belly of the beast. Weird. Stop it. I think one dynamic that I've observed of both you guys, and this is actually a dynamic I've seen in a lot of great duos in my own life as well, almost exclusively, is even just the So the trust, I would say, is the bedrock, but I think the maybe initial attractional piece that I see in you guys is that you guys are so different as people. And I know that actually could often be like a friction point for a lot of that's like the stopping point. Like, wow, that's why I wouldn't want to be in business with this person. But because of your guys's willingness to trust, also you kind of said like the things that you guys want to put out in the world is the same. And I think that really speaks to, okay, acknowledging that there are strengths that Wes has that Marty just does not have, and there's strengths that Marty has that Wes just does not have.
A lot.
But again, like I do think that there is that rule that I've seen is that yin to your yang, you know, like I time and time again, the best leadership moments, times where I've had the best teams, healthiest dynamics was when I had a counterpart that was so vastly different than me. But I could see past the objections of the way they see things and see the value, because I'm like, oh, it's actually a blind spot of mine that they actually have like a binocular view on.
Could not echo that sentiment more with like just the amount of growth.
And I've seen that in you guys.
The amount of growth that I've had just being in the orbit of Marty, like personally and professionally, I would not be the same person. Yeah. And in a very short amount of time. Like just, and maybe that's something that helps us is just like, there's always that kind of like opportunity to grow, and just like having a good partner is like having a great mirror, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And I think when it comes to like the shared values of what we feel is important. I think that's one of the other reasons why we are able to work so well together, is that there is a direct alignment, not only as we look at business, but how we approach and how we look at life in totality.
Right.
And also to that point of seeing, and also either seeing, speaking into, demonstrating, living like the things that not only allow us to be strong collectively, but can make us stronger individually. And I believe that's where it gets really, really fun. And also to be able to be completely yourself. Yeah. And that's another thing. It's that moment where you can just be like your full, weird, wonderful, wild self, where it's like, oh, not only is there this level of acceptance, but there is this way to be able to look at this situation in a relatively objective standpoint, but also get really great feedback from someone who not only cares about you, but cares about where you're going together.
Yeah.
And so as our business grows, as business evolves, we've been able to be very consistent and conscientious about what is kind of the next thing. Does this align? Does this work for you? Does it work for me? Is there a tension or friction point that might come up, which as I say, it's rare. Trying to think if there's anything that's come top of mind, and nothing does, but there's ways to do things even better than you would on your own. And I think that's where kind of the partnership, the value comes, particularly not only to be able to make things stronger, but to also have your back when you may not even have your own.
Yeah.
And
that's great. Yeah.
There specifically during the pandemic, my daughter was diagnosed with a really rare and dangerous neurological condition. And if I was kind of left to my own devices, things were hard already.
Yeah.
They would have been exponentially more difficult had it not been for Wes and Shelly being just such a go-to during that time.
Yeah.
And it's like family, friends. I had some friends kind of just completely dip out of my life during that time for whatever reason. I now think I understand it, but there also had ones who like completely showed up, and Wes and Shelly completely showed up, not only business wise, but familial. And I think that's like those types of experiences can't be faked.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going back to like, we have goals and we have ambitions, we have things that we want to accomplish, but I think the level of perspective that we have, that it's just, when we say family first with our, with our partnerships and stuff, like, we mean that.
Yeah.
Like, there is not a thing that we will do where it's like,
they actually do, by the way. Like, that is one unique thing. I'm not joking. Honestly, I have never been in the context of team where, because everyone says things like that.
Yeah.
Seldom do people act on that. And that's one thing that's been a crazy blessing just for our family. Is like, okay, this came up. And you guys are like, nope. Even
legit will burn this down before. I'm serious. Like, before it became like a thing, like if it was like, would burn this to the ground because family. And that's what I mean by that level of perspective, is like, we will keep the main thing about our purpose and vision and our mission and the things that we want to accomplish and aligning on the values. But we definitely, or at least I will lean into like helping Marty keep the perspective that like, we're working this hard to provide for families that are, to give a good life for them. Yeah. And it's not getting married to the work. The work is important and it's great. And I think there's something very healthy about that level of disconnect, where it's just like, look, work's really important, but like, it's not the thing. It's not the thing that should be driving, right. We should reverse that. We should reverse that thought. It's like, I want to provide a great life for my family. I want you guys to be able to provide a great life for your families. And if work gets in the way of that, if like the pursuit of work to make the most money and to be the most successful and to do all these things is at the detriment of the family, I'm losing that perspective. I'm losing the reason why I'm doing this in the first place. And I think it's really, it's a great ecosystem to be in, where it's like, because there are times where it's like, we could make so much money if we do this and if we do all these things. And it's like, yeah, but I don't think that we need to, like, if we're not keeping the main thing, like, why are we doing this in the first place? But it does lead. I mean, I think the other part of it is, in one of the episodes we talked about conflict and the differentiation between healthy and unhealthy conflict, and we've only had healthy conflict in my experience, just because we care about each other and we've invested so much in the relational trust part. Can you
define the difference between those two, just real quick for
it's
people
just
listening?
General litmus test is that if the tension in the room is centered around the idea, it's likely healthy. And so if Marty and I are talking about moving offices, and we're having like strong opinions or strong emotions about like, well, I want to stay here, well, I want to move here, and we can get tense and terse about it. We can
advocate for ourselves,
and what we want and think, and that's likely healthy. Because it's gonna land on it. But if I'm like, well, Marty, you only want to move there because your wife's sister's horse trainer's aerobics instructor owns that building, and you're only in it for this, like, that's likely unhealthy if it centers around the individual with the opposing idea. And so Marty and I have had hard conversations about what we think we want to do with Culture Stoke, or how we want to pivot, or how we want to grow, and what's the pace, etc. But it's always centered around the idea, and there is a little bit of that iron sharpening iron, which is why diversity of thought is so good. And I think we honor the things that make us very similar. We're very happy-go-lucky, very optimistic people that just like to have a good time. Like, there's lots of things that Marty and I have in common, but we also honor the fact that it's like, we also see the world differently and think differently, and that actually makes us a better partnership than if we were just like lockstep,
right?
Exactly the same.
We're working lockstep.
Yeah, we are in 100% of the time, because it just, I do believe, just in the physical mechanics of the body, you work out, you put tension on your muscles to build them. You put tension on your skeletal system to build it and strengthen it. You need to have some tension in your business partnership, because if it always feels easy, you're either not pushing yourself hard enough, or you're not going anywhere. You're just doing this the whole time. So I think that to me is if I'm giving one piece of advice to people that are looking to start partnerships with a friend, is just make sure you're keeping the main thing, and don't shy away from the hard conversations.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to hear what you guys, because I feel like I've been blah, blah, blahing for too long.
No, dude, it was all good.
Yeah.
And I absolutely echo the similar recommendations, and understanding like what is your ideal goals and outcomes, like not just for the relationship or what you might quote unquote get out of it, but also what is the impact that if you do this really, really well and things take off in the greatest way possible.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Not just about what you get, but who you become in that process. And I think that's where having a partner can be very, not only very, I would just highly beneficial, because there is that ability to go far together, much further than you can on your own.
For sure.
To go quickly with, you have positive accountability from other people who genuinely care and want to see what's good for you. But you also have, you said, diversity of thought, perspective about how you might be able to do things, the best idea winning. But then also to that point where those types of victories can be that much sweeter because because things don't happen by accident oftentimes in partnerships. And that I think is healthy, but it can also go a bit sideways if the level of communication doesn't exist. And if there start operating from assumptions rather than asking for clarification, or if there's, hey, I'm feeling one thing, it's better to speak into it. I think that's something that we've always been good to, and you've been a great example of like, hey, I'm feeling something here. Is this my perspective, or is this information, or is this data we need to look at?
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of personal elements that come into a business partnership that, if left unaddressed, are going to show up in your business regardless.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's absolutely necessary to have that conversation. But if you can find a partner who shares similar values, who wants to be able to achieve, doesn't have to be exact same thing, but similar things kind of within each other's neighborhoods, and is willing to commit and show up at a level that you do, and have this level of reciprocity, then that's the first step. But it's really about getting to know your partner on a personal, professional level, and to make sure that there is clear value alignment, direction that is shared, and then getting into, okay, we understand the why we might be doing this. Now we're going to get into the what we might actually be doing. But the most important thing is your how.
Yeah.
And without the right person, it gets tough real quick.
Yeah.
How do you guys, I mean, because it does feel very serendipitous. You guys were friends, you were buddies. So there's kind of this like coalescing that seemed to naturally happen with you guys.
It's very organic.
Yeah. And I imagine that's not typically the case for a lot of business partners. A lot of times it might just be an advantageous, there's like, okay, you got the money, I got the idea, like, let's run, like how might you guys address, or have you addressed that type of dynamic? Because there is kind of maybe a uniqueness. And I would say this, glean something from that, because there's a level of personhood that is that underlines the entirety of your guys' business and like what this thing is now. That yes, there is that piece of friendship and things that kind of transcend, or I guess are the bedrock of it. But how might someone go about it if they're like, again, it's just more of a professional, mutually beneficial relationship than it is like, wow, we were friends when we were 17. And what would your guys' advice be for that duo that maybe has already started, or I don't know, Hugo, where that came from? How might you, because I imagine his story isn't the same as your guys's, and I imagine that's not everyone's, but yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question.
My thoughts are to first get really clear of what's the purpose behind this?
Yeah.
Like
Why
it's
are you
the
doing this?
if this we
For you as
understand-
an individual first, right?
yes,
Okay.
100%. So like, why would I be looking to bring on a partnership?
Mhm.
And think about, these are the things that I see, these are the benefits, these are the things that will make things different or better for me as an individual. These are the things that, but also consider, what are the things that are really driving, is this something that's completely necessary? Like there should I'm going to marinate on this a little bit because I'm seeing some thoughts that are coming up that are like, I'm just going to contradict myself.
Stream of consciousness. It's all right.
Yeah.
Because I believe,
I think two things can be true at once, though.
For sure.
So
yes, thank
you know what I mean?
Thanks for speaking into that. So there is what is the desire and intention for getting into a partnership?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the desire and intention, what is the outcome that you want to be able to accomplish? And why is it important to you? And if it is for maybe increased capital or access to information or network or whatever, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I understand that we have these unique skill sets, or we bring these things to the table where it doesn't necessarily 1 + 1 = 2. There can be a positive compound effect around this.
Right.
Let's identify what those are, so we can make a business case for why we should even enter into this with you. And then that gets into, if that's mutually agreed upon and like, hey, cool, this actually makes a whole lot of sense. There's energy behind this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we need to consider, how does this look like from a formal partnership structure? Is this 50-50? Is there certain percentages? There's that conversation that needs to happen earlier on in because if you go down the road and, I see I'm pulling 80-hour weeks, you're working 25-hour weeks,
right?
We're at a 50-50 split. That's not going to be going to be sustainable. Yeah. So understanding where you all kind of line up from a business equity standpoint is important, but then what are the expectations of one another, so you can have that. So as if something comes up that's unspoken, an unspoken expectation
it's not one.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not an expectation.
Yeah.
So otherwise, that's
assumption, I guess.
An assumption that can probably can and will eat away at you if you don't express it.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be these almost relational pillars, so to speak, and they need to be clear and upfront.
Yeah.
Because if they aren't, you're just setting yourself up for pain.
Yeah. I mean, the purpose thing. Cannot stress enough. Like in even if you're just a solopreneur, if your motive is, I want to make a shed load of money and that's why I'm doing this thing,
right?
Not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like you are going to burn yourself out or you're going to become just this ends justify the means fiend, because it is all about that line. Like I'm reminded of that the line from Coolio's 1, 2, 3, 4 something new, where he's if hip hop didn't pay, I'd rap for free.
Yeah.
Like it's a shame that there is a market for what we do. Like
I'm grateful for it.
I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. Like I wish that humans were just better to each other and could, like that's a bummer. But but honestly, I would do this work for free because it means that much to me.
Yeah.
It means something to me on a personal level. And we do like an awful lot for very, special people, because it's just like, we genuinely care about this stuff. The money is cool.
Yeah.
But it's not the reason why we're doing this. And so like that purpose thing, but I also think the leaning into when there are tension points, because I think there is a difference between like, don't sweat the small things, which is something that you have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But because there's just certain things like, it's just, it's a bummer, but it's not really like, is that really that big of a deal? But I think we can do that too much.
Yeah.
And we start
like
to keep
death
score.
by 1,000 paper cuts type of thing. It's like, well, you may not be against stab in the back, but one thing, another thing, another thing, another thing.
Well, and I think the other thing is that we will drink our own champagne here. And so like you have organizational pinch theory, which is basically like, if you know, if we work together, we do.
If you pinched me every day.
If I walked in, so like the pinch theory is essentially like if we walked into the office every day and I was like, "What's up, Richard?" and I pinched you on the arm.
Oh, I'd hate that. I would tell you the second.
So, but most people would go, that's
why'd you do that? Like
They
internalize
wouldn't-
that.
Yeah, they wouldn't even say anything, right? And then every day I just, "What's up, Richard? How's it going?"
gosh.
Every morning. "What's up, Richard? How's it going?" Every morning I would do that, and you'd be like, "What?" And then there would be a point where it's like, well, I really want to say something, but I haven't said anything yet.
Right.
So now it would be weird if I did say something. Now let's fast forward months later.
Yeah.
Just pinching away, and someone cuts you off in traffic, or you have a fight with your wife, or you spill your coffee, or you stub your toe. Then I come in, it's boom. Tidal wave, massive overreaction,
right?
You know, because
that was left unsaid.
I don't want to sweat the small things, so I'm not gonna say that. It's like, but if it actually bothers you,
say it.
Like if it bothers you, and there's a difference between something that's just like mildly inconvenient, you know, versus something that like intrinsically, like you can feel the difference between like, oh, that really like I don't like that. I don't if and like a good litmus test for you is if that behavior continued, are you getting closer to hitting that person in the face, or would you just kind of shake your head? Because there are things like this is applicable in life itself, not just business. But if there are things that people do in your life that like, I think that there's lots of things that my family does that I'm just like, shake my head at. It's like, well, that's not the way I'd go about it. But just as I'm sure Elliot, Shelly, and Andy, there are very small few things that I do that you probably are not super pumped on. Okay. But that you just you can kind of laugh at and go, well, that's just a weird quirk of the human being.
Right.
And then there are times where it's like
oh, that's a behavioral.
They will do something and it's like, ooh, I do not like this. Okay. Would not recommend. 1 star. Do not like. Those are the times where you just go, and it's much easier to have I think Marty said it in an early episode. You're putting off the easy work for hard work later.
Yeah, I said that last
when
week.
you don't just say, "Hey,
come on,
this kind of felt weird. This felt weird to me.
Yeah.
Can we find a different way?"
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, you know, hearing you guys, because you kind of listed out like kind of a list of maybe the how-tos, which kind of included, you know, what's the why, the purpose behind it, the
It's why Marty and I make a good partnership, because he thinks about all that stuff and I'm over here with Coolio lyrics.
That is true, but also that underscores the value you bring. So I will. Bah. No, I'm kind of like something that I'm hearing in an undertone of all of this. And this is a question that I'm just curious. There's kind of 2 questions, but as you know, people who have a partnership, and then also I've watched a lot of business leaders be in partnership with each other, and whether there's a typical org chart in that, or kind of like, I don't know, the way we've kind of created maybe this wave idea of leadership, but you know, I'm almost wondering, there's such a human element to the start of all of this. I almost wonder if the first step is even some sort of like a relational, like, personality test. Like, okay, how symbiotic can we be? Actually, just how compatible as humans are we, besides the purpose of the outcomes? Like, can we even just function kind of, it sounds crazy, but it's like premarital counseling. Like, you do that, and I know I hate to say it, but we've said it before. Like, this is very akin to a romantic relationship in a lot of ways, which is ironically just human relationship. It's just relationships. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if there's like a subtone of like, hey, like, actually, before you touch on any of these practical, like, outcomes, purpose, values, why, like, is there a known way to find out if there's compatibility before that even happens, just on a personality level? And again, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. So I don't know.
Great question. Yeah. The thing, I am a huge believer of, when I used to hire people directly for organizations, that would always ask before someone was brought onto a team, would you invite this person over to hang out with your friends, to your family?
Yeah.
Would you want them to, if you were to have a barbecue and you didn't know them, they don't necessarily have to work for you, but would you be excited to see this person at a family function outside of the context of work.
Mm.
And if the answer was no, like, why is that?
Mm.
And then also considering kind of the follow-up question. Okay, this is a nice family environment. Usually you're having a good time here.
Yeah.
If you got a call at 3:00 in the middle of the night, that's something that was happening at your workplace, and this person was either responsible or reporting this, how would you feel coming into that situation?
Yeah.
And great. So, oh gosh, I'd be relieved to see them because I know they would have my back in this situation. Or, oh, no, I don't think I want to see them because I think they're going to be pointing blame, and I don't know if I can count on them to be the ones to really help solve this situation. So first and foremost, I tend to think of those things first. And if you can say, yeah, you know what, I would want to be able to count on that person or see that person or be around them in those situations, it's usually a good litmus test, and then you can go further down the road. But if either that's
not the immediate,
because usually
there's some pause there.
There's some pause because there's a gut feeling that you can't necessarily identify through language.
Yeah.
And if you can't, if you have to convince and override your gut based upon logic, you are just setting yourself up for delayed failure.
Yeah. I mean, it really does beg the question though about, because one of my Wesisms, like you don't have to necessarily like somebody to care about them.
Right.
And so, but partnership feels like such a different dynamic, because you definitely need to care about.
I think I agree.
You definitely need to care about your partner.
It's not the same as like like bringing an employee on necessarily. It's a very different dynamic.
But if you are aligned around a common purpose,
you get past that?
I could see it where it's like, hey, we're because you're going to be spending a lot. I'm working this out as I'm thinking. I'm just like, man, do you need, like, need is the word.
Literally my next question.
Like, do you need to have that relational thing, that chemistry, and like, because we have a great time doing what we do.
Yeah.
Do you need that in order to be successful? I don't know. I mean, it would be an interesting thought experiment.
Well, you didn't outright say, you just said that's something you need to really consider.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't say you shouldn't do it, but it is something that
because if you
bears
do
a lot
have
of weight.
the common purpose, if you have aligned values, but you necessarily don't have shared interest in things, like, Marty and I would love to go to a Dodger, like make some time and go to a Dodger game because we are Dodgers fans. Like that would be fun. Go Blue. You're not invited.
That's why I'm not a partner.
But if we didn't have, Marty, Marty loves to surf, and he's been surfing his whole life, and I am allergic to surfboards. So it's like, Marty and I are not probably ever going to go surfing because Marty loves the beach, and I like to see the beach. I don't like to actually go there.
There's a shared interest, though, not really personality.
So the personality thing is an interesting one, because your personality is going to dictate a lot of the experience, but you can set up structures and things that are going to make it a little more regimented. It's not going to be nearly as fun. And this is where I'm kind of like, you could probably make it work. Is it going to be as fun and fulfilling if you don't have a partner that's like also a homie or a friend? Probably
Maybe.
not.
Yeah,
but like,
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Is it going to be? Will you be as successful? I would probably say probably not. But like, could you still make it work with a person that it's like, well, we're not necessarily friends, but we won't be. But we want the same things in the world,
right? We
have shared values, but we just don't have that personal connection where we would want to spend time with each other outside of the workplace. I think you could make it work. It would be less fun.
I wonder if it comes down. Sorry, I was just saying, like, I wonder if it comes down at that, seeing kind of the dichotomy between these two thoughts. If it just comes down to, like, because if you're clear about that, and here's the thing, you have to have the cojones to say this to somebody, and actually have somewhat of a relational equity. Be like, yeah, hey, dude, we're not buddies, but we really believe in this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm wondering, I think it's more just that trust and that openness to say, we're not this, but we still agree on this. So anyway, what were you going to say, Marty?
Yeah, I believe there's if you're looking for like the very best way, I would highly encourage that type of that relationship of that we've kind of described. Like, hey, yes, I would want to be able to invite you over to a family barbecue. I would like if this gnarly situation happened, I'm not going to be like, regretting like going in to seeing that person. Yeah. Because in those types of circumstances, if either those answers are no, that's going to impact how you behave with that person. Yeah. And really trust is that function of communication and behavior. For sure. And so if you behave a certain way that is not necessarily that doesn't necessarily align with the person that you want to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That can start to eat away. Yeah. And dissolve.
Will.
It will. So it's a little bit of a pendulum swing with like, well, okay, it's all about having this level of awareness. Like if I realize that this is strictly a business relationship and we're going to make all of our decisions based upon the best business case. And does this align with our values? Does this align with our vision? Is there a business case? Yes. Okay. We're going to use that as our move forward standpoint. But if we want to be able to enjoy ourselves and to grow as humans and to do these things with people that we want to bring on who share these common interests and values, and you want to create something special, I think it does start with the relational aspect. So can it be done? Yes. I can still. Is it the best way to get is it the way that can deliver the best results? No. Yeah. And so like,
is it fair to like, just for the sake of, being a little more declarative in this, is it fair to say that our recommendation, even as like, if someone were to consult with us and ask like, hey, we're thinking about this thing, blah, 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 and they had the money to consult with us, if it came down to that, would we just be like, you shouldn't do this? Would we be declarative enough?
To Marty's point, if you wouldn't hire that person to be an employee, you should really think
about that
hard about being a partner with them. Like 100%. If you're like, there was a I don't remember where I saw it, but it was like somebody was making a joke about their small child brought them a picture that they paint, that they drew, and it was like, your mom's the same size as the house. Like the like the dynamics in here don't even make sense. And like the punchline of the joke was like, on my refrigerator, I don't even want this drawing in my garbage. Like it's kind of the same line of thinking. If you wouldn't hire that person as an employee, you definitely shouldn't be a partner with them. Right. Like, so that in and of itself, good litmus test. But I do think, to Marty's point, it's going to be, can you make it work? Yeah. Sure. But in a partnership, when things get hard, when you're in the shit, like that Marty said, like when you're in it, that like the fact that you had to say, well, we're going to make this work. Right. Is a pretty clear indicator like that. Partnerships, you don't make work. They should work. They are work. They take work, but it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't be the thing that you do, or it shouldn't be so hard. I'm trying to figure out the best way to articulate this without swearing. But like,
I was wondering. I was like, you usually don't.
I'm like really trying hard to not. But it's like when things get really, really crappy. Yeah. Having somebody in your corner that if Culture Soak went bankrupt tomorrow, right? We're gonna be okay because we were able to like look each other in the eye and say like, we did this together. Yeah. Even if it didn't work, and feel really good about it. Like if you don't have that, it can make the whole experience really crummy.
Which will deteriorate, like you said, it will deteriorate kind of everything from there. Yeah. So I think as we're kind of wrapping up, I think there's maybe like, and if you guys have any specific thoughts or questions you want to wrap up, but I'm kind of curious, Hugo, our buddy, asked this question. You said you had like, okay, I could kind of 10 minutes. Like instead of doing that, I'm going
to thumb this bad boy.
Yeah. I'm going to thumb this out in the podcast, but I'm kind of curious, there's people listening, the tens of people listening right now.
Or tens of listeners. Thanks, y'all.
to soon to be thousands. But people who are in this partnership, because, there's people in this partnership that have just heard the litmus test that you guys created, like, oh crap, my business partner is not someone that I want calling.
I hate
in the
their
night,
face.
and I also, I don't want to barbecue with this guy.
Yeah.
But they also, my guess is, like you said, you don't have to like somebody to care. They probably have some inherent care for the person.
You'd hope.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
on some level. What would your guys' recommendation be for that? I know it's very kind of sticky, but I'm kind of curious because I imagine that the question even might have been provoked from like, there's tension that I've seen or I've experienced personally. How do you guys make it seem so flawless or easy? You know, I don't know. That's such
Great
a hard
hair.
a beautiful hair.
What do you think?
I think for us, it comes back to kind of the foundational elements of any type of organization, of any business, and we just apply it to our business partnership and even to relationships. And that is knowing, to the point, our purpose. We know what our purpose is.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to help organizations become great places to work that lead to better people, happier people, and better results.
Right.
Very clear. We understand what we do. We support coaching leaders. We provide partner consulting. We facilitate retreats. We host cohorts, and we educate people. Great.
Mm-hmm.
How we do that is also very well known, and not a lot of places know how to articulate their how. And it comes back into the culture framework.
Okay.
So Wes developed the framework of how we want to treat each other. And this can not just extrapolate of how we want to treat each other as a team, but how we want to treat each other as partners.
Yep.
And then how do we want to treat others outside of the partnership? So can be other team members. This can be vendors. This can be clients. This can be contractors, employees, community members, etc.
Right.
How do we view and solve problems as partners?
Right.
How do we communicate as partners? And then how do we foster a sense of celebration for the things that we're able to accomplish with the team? How are we living in and acknowledging and fostering a spirit of gratitude? What are the organizational infrastructures? What are the things that we're going to kind of lean on that are going to provide the accountability and consistency in the way that we do business? And what opportunities do we have to grow, not only as leaders, but as partners, but as individuals and as dudes? And so there's this side where since we have not only commonality in that, but we've expressed an understanding to a really deep level how we show up organizationally for each other and others,
right?
It becomes much more easy because like, I'm sure Wes could probably put, this is Marty's like user manual. And I could be like, hey, this is probably Wes's user manual, because we know ourselves and we know each other.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, the greatest differentiator between why apparently our business partnerships may look relatively effortless. It's because we know one another.
Yeah. Well, and that the underscore of that effortlessness is it's like the iceberg analogy. There's such a depth of work.
You all see the
into
10% of the 90% of the things that it takes to make this crazy thing work.
And precisely,
yeah. I think the other part of it is just we're people. You know, people are people.
Yeah.
And relationships are relationships. This sounds very dumb in my head as I'm saying it, but what I mean by that is it's way too easy to overcomplicate the human condition. Like, we are messy and weird, and people are hard and troublesome, and they're frustrating, and but at the end of it all, we're just people, and we have all of this together. And so I think the thing that makes the partnership work really, really well is like that we just acknowledge that we are people first. It's actually one of our values. Like, we have family first, and we have people first, and they're kind of wrapped up in the same thing. But it's being successful is not just what's in your bank account. And I think that's something that we lean really heavily on, because if we are not having a good time while we're doing this, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah. Why?
Because life is too short. And for all intents and purposes, we get one time on this planet.
Yeah.
And if we are pouring blood, sweat, and tears into a thing that we don't care about,
right,
that we don't care about, and all we're doing is we're trying to make the most amount of money, I think like we are cheapening that, we are taking for granted the miracle that it is that we get to breathe every day. And it's like partnerships are hard, and they are work, just like a marriage, just like any sort of friendship relationship that you have. But if you have the best interest in mind of whoever you're talking about, whether it's your spouse or your partner or your kids or your neighbor, if you're like, look, you're a person first, and I want to just honor and respect that Wes is not going to show up as his best self every day. I think I texted you guys this morning. Like, I woke up just feeling just the absolute mauling from my brain bully of doubt. I mean, just woke up going, whoa, dude, are you doing the right things? Are you like, what is going on here? And if you don't have a partnership where you can be honest with like, boy, I really just don't feel like I'm
feeling it,
worth anything today.
Right.
If you feel like you have to show up as somebody that you're not every day, good data point where it's just like, you know what? Not okay. Like there has to be such a level of humility and transparency about where we are every day, because, and this is life stuff, because it's like, if you just go through life feeling like you've got to put up the front that I've got this all figured out and I'm great and everything's great all the time, that crap is toxic as hell as far as I'm concerned. Like, and so
it's a heavy burden to carry.
Yeah. And I think the thing that, you know, that I appreciate most about the partnership that Marty and I have at Culture Stoke is I can just be real as real could possibly be. Yeah. Like there is not a thing in my heart, mind, and soul that I can think of right now that I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing with Marty.
Same.
If I felt compelled, because it's just, I know like he's got my back. I know he knows that I've got his back, and it's
well, that bleeds to the rest of us too, because that immediately became something apparent to me coming on team. It's like, hey, no, like even asking, probing at times when it's like, what's going on? Yeah, you know.
And we do whenever there's like weird vibes or energy. It's just like, what up? Hey, dude, just wanna check in. How's the world?
Yeah.
Because we're people first, and we're messy and weird, and we have weird, messy things. Our wires get crossed all the time. You know, our brain bullies do a 1-2 punch all the time. And when a partnership is a beautiful and wonderful thing to have, because it can help bring out the best in you. And if you don't, I'm slowly coming around to like, nope, need to have the good relational stuff to make an effective partnership. I think you can build a successful business without it. I don't think you will have a fruitful partnership without it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's definitively from a Culture Stoke ethos. I would say that is generally our belief is people have to be first, and that comes with the relational dynamic of the people. We're messy, we're complicated, but it's also, we don't need to overcomplicate it, right? And so and I would say, at least for you guys, my observation, and that would be anyone listening, Hugo, all of our friends, anyone who would ever listen to that, if people aren't first in your world, then you might build a successful business, but you may not be super happy about it. Because
And that's why I think the beautiful thing is, this is a business, when done this way, can be the force multiplier for every aspect of your life. It could be not only a benefit to yourself, but the people that you serve, the people on your team, the community which you operate. And so as a result of seeing business not so much as like the villain, like, yes, there have been some there's a lot of examples of how not to do it.
Right.
But this could actually be a way to transform business, not only for good, but for business for good, for people, for the bottom line, everything.
All of it.
And it starts.
If people are the bedrock of it, then everything can be built in a beautiful way. And I think we can probably definitively say, Culture Stoke, okay, people got to be first. Happier people, better results, right? Yeah. So it's like we can't, and that's going to be our ethos across the board. So, any last thoughts? Any kind of wrap up thoughts? I have a question that's like really deep. I don't think you guys could answer it quickly enough. So
challenge us.
Challenge. Okay. All right. We have like 10 minutes. So
10 minutes.
Well, hold on. Let me look at
it. We actually we got to have an appointment. So we might like 5.
Okay, we got 5. Okay, well, you guys got 5 minutes, and I'll stop you.
Let's go.
So I guess the last thought that I had was, obviously you guys have a great partnership. there's going to be kinks here and there, and you guys have worked through that over the last several years.
If there's not, there's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that. If there's not tension, you can't make good music, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, if you could go back though, if there was, a few things you could look back on and be like, man, if we had tweaked this or changed that or done this a little differently, looking back introspectively, is there anything that you guys now are like, dude, if we had tweaked this sooner or had this conversation sooner, and if there's not an answer to that, then that's great. But I'm kind of curious if there is like, hey, if we could help someone avoid a 2-year headache that you guys just got to organically, because you mentioned it's been very organic, naturally. But I'm wondering if there is, hey, that's right. That's a great thing about a coach is they kind of help you 10x your time. So, is there any sort of or
can I say we would have not had a pandemic? I don't know if we can do that.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Hey, why not?
The only thing I would say is and Marty has helped me out a lot with this because again, if hip hop didn't pay, I'd rap for free. I think the only thing I would say is that I think we undersold ourselves to start. And that is really just rooted in, both Marty and I like struggling with self-confidence and feeling good about ourselves and stuff. And so we were just, we were less, or I wish I was more, I wish I had done a lot of the deep self-work that I've done a lot sooner in my life to get me to the point where it's like, you know what? I have worked really hard to get to where I'm at. And like, you can choose to accept my expertise or not, but it's there and I have it and it's good in my mind. So like that would be the only thing I can think of.
And there's an authority that comes, not just your mind, because there's real world outcomes of that as a product of your deep work.
But I think I would have leaned harder into that as, instead of just like, individual. I need to prove myself or we need to prove ourselves versus like, no, we're pretty awesome. Yeah. And we're really good at what we do. I don't know.
Yeah. And just even I'm trying to think from like a relational standpoint, there's nothing that honestly comes to mind, which I'm like trying to look for it. And more than anything, I could like think of the conversations and the times that we had stuff. That were like tension building, but like were led to great outcomes.
Yeah.
So like I'm a better person because this happened. So like, would I do things differently? More maybe around the tactical presentation of kind of business and our value proposition, etc. But from a partnership thing, no,
that's great.
Very,
yeah. Hey, I mean that's a great place to be.
And you said we couldn't do it.
I didn't know. Well, I think that's a great place to stop. And I think if we could kind of wrap up just a few key points I'm thinking of, leaders who are in it now, I would say, hey, take a look at the Culture Catalyst framework and apply that to your partnership now. Yeah. Go look at that, buy the book. It's on Amazon, Culture Catalyst. It's awesome. It's the framework we use for all of our businesses that we consult with.
Also use it for your marriage, by
and your marriage, your life, dude. It really is. I've said this before and I don't mean it. Like it's objectively one of the best and simplest models that I've seen for how to clearly shape culture. Yeah. And so that first and foremost, go there. If you're in it, if you're a business partner with somebody, you're like, I don't know if this is working. Maybe it's working in the books, but not in every other part. Yeah. Start there. But be aligned on purpose. If you're going to start to be aligned on purpose. And if you're talking to Culture Soak, we're going to say, hey, also like each other and care for each other.
Facts.
Yeah.
100%.
Is that fair?
That's very fair.
Hey, thanks for living in this gangster's paradise. Yes, and for going on this fantastic voyage. Hey, first CD I ever bought, Coolio. It Takes a Thief. So nice. R.I.P. Coolio, and also thank you for being such a part of my formative years.
I love it. All right, hey, Marty, Wes. Cheers. As we always say, Culture Soak, happier people,
better results, and better partnerships. Later.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Stoke podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate us wherever you tune in. Share this episode with anybody who could use a culture boost. Until next time, keep stoking the fire.